Shadow Ball forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and we pivot into 2-shield Darmanitan. The opponent throws at really poor timing. Darmanitan going to be looking for the full resisted. Incinerate farm down Tapu Fini, makes the last second surf, and Darmanitan now has no Protect Shields to hide behind. Opponent sends out Talonflame with a Death Wish. Darmanitan about to claim its first victim. Get that Talonflame off my screen. The opponent's final Pokemon is Cobalion, and we're going to hit him with that bang. There it is. Shout out to the one and only GOAT, Oxford U, one of the OGs of the community. Buddy, we are long overdue an upload. So welcome back to the channel. Today we have yet another incredible battle submission from Callum on Toast, former Ultra League Battle of Spice champion philthebaws. I've had the pleasure of shoutcasting Phil numerous times in the past, and he does not disappoint. Today he is cranking that spice right up, showcasing Shadow Darmanitan in the Open Ultra League. Phil is running an ABB double fire strategy, using Skeledirge as his safe switch. The idea of Skeledirge is to bait out Darmanitan's hardest counter, enabling Darmanitan the best chance of sweeping the back line. Darmanitan, being a mono fire type, is going to be weak to water, ground and rock, and in the most part Tapu Fini does cover them threats. However, I'll be honest, something like a Feraligatr, Jellicent or Lantern probably sweep the entirety of our team. However, we're going to let the Spice Lord Phil cook, and without any further ado, let's jump into the battles. And in game 1 we see a tricky lead against the Steel Penguin. We say switch into Skeledirge. Phil tanks the Hydro Cannon, which does a lot of damage. The opponent then save switch into Tapu Fini. We fire off the Shadow Ball, forcing a Protect Shield. We're going to reach the last second disarming voice, but unfortunately that doesn't really do all that much damage. On the plus side, we've baited this thing out, so Darmanitan doesn't have to see it. Phil now re-enters the Tapu Fini mirror. I don't know why I said re-entered, as obviously we haven't seen this matchup yet, but Phil does enter the Tapu Fini mirror regardless. We correctly shield up the Moonblast. Phil now slightly over farms and fires off the Moonblast, looking to secure the knockout. Moonblast goes unshielded, securing the knockout. Are we going to instantly pivot? Looking for Darmanitan to sweep back out. Comes in Polion. Phil looks to stay in. I guess we're just looking to force the energy. A non-stab Drill Peck won't secure the knockout, so we see the instant no-shield deployed Moonblast. Does get us low. Phil tanks it like a boss and returns fire of the Moonblast. Moonblast lands. It is resisted, but does put them into farm down range. One Incinerate deletes the Penguin, and the opponent's final Pokemon is a stupid tap nonsense Charmer. Phil fires off the Rock Slide. The opponent, of course, going to be shielding everything. Rock Slide forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We fire off Ovi, which is resisted, but Darmanitan doesn't give a crap about type-ins, and we're off to a 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. I'm sure you can hear my voice still isn't 100%. I've been ill for like 2 weeks now. I've got no idea why I cannot shake this illness off. I've also had quite minimal sleep. I spent a lot of time at hospital yesterday. We're not going to get into that. We're going to return to the commentary. We see a fantastic lead. Tapu Fini into Dragonite. The opponent say switches into Feraligatr, something I said could probably sweep the entirety of our team. So let's see how Phil handles this threat. We're off to a good start. Phil masturbates his way to forcing a Protect Shield. However, we're still not out of the water yet. Phil going to shield up the next Hydro Cannon, looking to fire off the Moonblast, hoping to get rid of Feraligatr. Moonblast isn't quite lethal. We then see the pivot into Skeledirge, getting the snipe. A really common pairing is Dragonite double water, so if it is that team, I think we're in a lot of trouble. Back out comes Dragonite. We fire disarming voice. The opponent shows no respect, knowing they tank it. Dragonite going to return fire with the Dragonclaw. Dragonclaw gets us low, and the opponent sends out Poliwrath. Skeledirge running out of HP, but these counters are double resisted. Phil fires off the disarming voice, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield, and we even force the opponent to throw. Come on, Darmanitan, buddy. Let's see what you've got. Unlike Skeledirge, Darmanitan's going to take neutral from counter, and I cannot imagine we tank these all that well. You can see counter tearing us apart. Phil going to respect a potential Scold. Of course, the opponent baits with the Icy Wind. Phil then farms up, looks to make the catch. The opponent not falling for any of that nonsense. Counter farm us down. We reset our debuff, fire off the Ovi. Ovi secures the knockout. Back out comes Dragonite. Darmanitan gets the Incinerate farm down, and we're able to take that game. Double fire versus double water. Who was worried? In the next battle, we see Cresselia in the lead. Feels like, nah, don't fancy that one. And we see the save switch into Skeledirge. Our Skeledirge save switch is met by Greninja. The opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon, but this Crocodile pretty tick, able to withstand the damage and return fire with the disarming voice, getting this super spammy frog deep into the red. Once again, we've managed to bait out something that Darmanitan certainly doesn't want to see. We can now send out Tapu Fini, get a nice water gun farm down. The opponent sends out Virizion. Oh boy, Darmanitan could be cooking. The opponent fires off the Leaf Blade. We see the pivot into Darmanitan, drawing back out Cresselia. If this opponent doesn't have Future Sight, we are definitely in business. Phil fires off the Rock Slide, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield. Phil with 2 Protect Shields looks to call the bait. The opponent does bait with the Moonblast, but fuck, holy shit, that did a lot of damage. Darmanitan, where is your bulk? Phil now forces Shield at whatever the opponent throws, and interestingly enough, they throw another Moonblast. They definitely have got Future Sight. Because if they had the cheaper Grass Knot, they would have threw it. Phil fires off the Rock Slide goes unshielded. Phil going to be looking to shield this move up. We need to be careful. The opponent looking to snipe, said Phil, with cat-like reflexes, pivoters into Tapu Fini as the opponent sends out Virizion. Moonblast forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and Trainer, you sir, have just thrown the match. This deer does farm up to back-to-back moves. Is it a deer? Is it an antelope? I don't know. But what I do know is it isn't winning CMP against Darmanitan Overheat. Going to be massive overkill. We managed to Incinerate farm down Cresselia and take that game. In the next battle, we see a red version of the Antelope. We see the Save Switch into Skeledirge. The opponent with no real response. Save Switch into their own Skeledirge behind an energy. Phil falls into the Shadow Ball, forcing the Protect Shield. Phil now very much in the driver's seat. We see the instant no shield deployed. Phil says, enjoy yourself, trainer. YOLO the ball. I dare you. The opponent tries their luck at masturbate, and Phil not falling for any of that nonsense and able to win the CMP tie, securing the knockout. Not only have we took switch, we've got shield advantage as well. The opponent then sends out the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death. They're also running double fire. The opponent can take us out with a fly. Oh my god, what is this opponent doing? Flame Charger doesn't get the job done. We even then land the Shadow Ball. My god, this opponent's in shambles. We send out Tapu Fini. The opponent then pivots back out into Virizion, and High Trainer meet Darmanitan. These Incinerates are doing absurd damage, but Virizion super spammy to these Sacred Swords, taking only 3 double kicks to each one. Phil looking to vest his final protection. We show up the next Sacred Sword. Can we get the farm down? No, we can't. Can we tank a Sacred Sword? Did they just Leaf Blade me? Am I going mad? What is happening in this battle? I really don't know how to commentate this. I've never been so confused in my life, but Phil picks up the dub. We're just going to move swiftly on. GG's. In the next battle, we see Staraptor. I was hoping to see somewhat of a more conventional battle, but we're probably going to see yet more madness. The opponent answers our Skeledirge Save Switch with the GOAT Shadow Swamper. We fire off the Shadow Ball, forcing us early shield advantage. Feel happy with the Crocodile's contribution, just going to elect to let it go down. Hydro Cannon, of course, going to secure the knockout, because Shadow Swamper does not mess around, hitting insanely hard. We now send out Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini does need to be mindful of a potential Earthquake, as from a Shadow it does a lot of damage, because the Earthquake rocks us down to around a third health, putting us very much now into Hydro Cannon range. Phil now forced to give up a Protect Shield in return, as that is not resisted Incinerate farm down range. Phil then gets greedy, plays the CMP tie. He does not win. Shout out Home Slice Henry for that quote. It's now all down to Darmanitan. Darmanitan does get the resisted Incinerate farm down. Staraptor running Sand Attack, and these Sand Attacks are going to chunk insanely quickly. We fire off the Rock Slide, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. I guess the win con from here is hope we can Incinerate farm this thing down and nuke whatever's in the back. However, Phil opts to throw the Rock Slide. We're going to need something so weak. Perhaps Registeel? The opponent's final Pokemon is Nidoqueen, and we're going to get Poison Jab farm down and unfortunately take a loss. Heading into the next battle, Phil looking for redemption as we see another Shadow Swamper. At least we've seen it in the lead this time. We saw in the previous battle that a Shadow Earthquake does so much damage, despite it being nerfed a couple of seasons ago. The opponent full sends an ouch that hurt. Phil then returns fire with the Surf, forces the Protect Shield. The super spammy Swamper able to outpace us to the Hydro Cannon. We see Phil put up a Protect Shield in return. The opponent then Save Switch into Mandibuzz, Phil then makes a very heads up play, catching the aerial ace 1 turn before the opponent reaches the move, sneaking the Incinerate. This ever annoying vulture able to outpace us to the charge move. Phil shields up the aerial ace, we then throw 1 Incinerate and the rock slide. We don't get same type attack bonus, but we're very attack weighted. Rock slide, no, doesn't knock out. Phil now finds himself in a very tricky spot. Foul play does secure the knockout. We haven't got a switch and we've got no protect shields too high behind Phil. Sends back out Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini does get the water gun farm down. Phil banks all of his energy, pivots into Skeledirge to meet Galarian Moltres. This thing has access to Payback, and Payback is going to do so much damage. The opponent actually throw Brave Bird. Does that give us a chance? Back out comes Swampert. This disarming voice should force the final shield. No, the opponent tank it. They then get Incinerate farm down. They have to tank this move because it's not going to do anywhere near as much as the Moonblast. The opponent shields the disarming voice. I cannot believe it, but Phil is going to pick up the dub as we've got the Moonblast banked, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle. Gator. Oof. Big core breaker, especially the Shadow variant, as this Shadow Claw Hydro Cannon combination is going to add up so quickly. It takes 20 turns to the Moonblast, so Feraligatr is able to reach 2 Hydro Cannons before we even reach a Moonblast. Phil farms up to the Moonblast, baits with the Surf, and the opponent call it. Although this might not actually be too bad for us, we just need to get off as much damage on this Gator as possible. The opponent's going to know this isn't a Moonblast, so they likely don't shield. We've managed to get Feraligatr quite low. We then see the pivot into Skeledirge. Feraligatr, though, so spammy. Throws the Hydro Cannon, nearly one-shot on our Crocodile, then send out Ampharos. Ampharos looks for the snipe, but Skeledirge able to hang on, reach the part in Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball forces a Protect Shield. Phil does have shield advantage, but this Ampharos is a huge energy lead, so we're very quickly going to be putting up Protect Shields. The opponent throws 1 Volt Switch and the Brutal Swing. For good fast move timing, only giving us 1 free turn. Again, they throw 1 and the charge move, and Phil has very quickly found himself all shields down. Phil continues to farm up. Phil looks to make the catch. What a play. Show me a grass type. Show me a steel type. Show me something we can nuke. Holy crap. That isn't what I'm looking for. Despite Phil pulling off all the shenanigans, we're going to take the loss. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle. We see the Tapu Fini mirror. This always makes me laugh. It's like 2 swordfish having a sword fight, if you get what I mean. Phil farms up to the Moonblast, baits with the Surf, winning CMP. The opponent puts up that Protect Shield. Phil thinks about calling the bait and the opponent full send, leaving us deep into red. Phil commits the Moonblast and heartbreaking we die at the move. That is so unfortunate. Phil now sends out Skeledirge, looking to soak up this energy. Surf does it for super effective, but Skeledirge easily able to survive 1. Phil then able to outpace to the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball forces the opponent's final Protect Shield and lets go Darmanitan. The opponent throws at really poor timing, allowing us to sneak the Incinerate. Can Darmanitan get the Incinerate farm down? No, the opponent reached the last second Surf. Darmanitan is going to go down Protect Shields. We've got so much energy. The opponent sends out Talonflame. Darmanitan about to claim its first victim. Get that Talonflame off my screen. The opponent's final Pokemon is Cobalion, and they're going to be straight in and straight out. Darmanitan picks up the full sweep. GG's and thanks for playing. What a win. Darmanitan running rampant. In the next battle, we see Giratina. It wasn't going to be long before we saw one of these things. Despite us being a fairy and the opponent being a dragon, this matchup isn't anywhere near as good as you'd like it to be. It's very reliant on us landing a Moonblast. Phil full sends it. Does the opponent respect the damage? Moonblast forces a Protect Shield, and we see the pivot into Skeledirge. We've already seen they've got Shadow Sneak, but Shadow Sneak, a pretty trash move and doesn't do all that much damage. We attempt to YOLO the Shadow Ball, but the opponent makes a very nice catch, catching it onto Tapu Fini, but we very much appreciate that damage. Phil fires off the Disarming Voice. I like this play, because if we commit into the Shadow Ball, the opponent would outpace us. However, on the downside, this is going to allow them to Water Gun farm us all the way down. Phil has got shield advantage. I imagine we send out Tapu Fini, just sack it and put it all on the angry orangutan to sweep once again. However, Phil has other ideas, sends out Tapu Fini, we get baited with a Surf. The opponent only going to reach a Surf, but Surf is going to leave us into the red. We do get the Water Gun farm down. However, we're not going to reach a Moonblast at the returning Giratina. Back out comes Giratina. The opponent fires off the Shadow Sneak, securing the knockout. Darmanitan has a very tough task ahead of itself. Shadow Darmanitan, insanely glassy. We're going to shield up a Dragon Claw. Because despite Giratina being very defense weighted, these Dragon Claws are going to do so much damage. Look at that. We're making Giratina look like an attack weighted Pokemon. We fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide goes unshielded. The opponent's final Pokemon is Poliwrath. And there literally was no way we were winning that matchup. Moving on to the next one. Fini into the Angry Snowman. We see the instant pivot into Skeledirge. The opponent staying in. Trainer, surely you're not triple weak to fire. The opponent stays in. Look to debuff us, so they mustn't have any response. Or at least so I thought. The opponent has a very good answer to us in the form of Lantern. Something that definitely could have swept our team if the opponent didn't give us a huge energy lead. Phil landed the first Shadow Ball, able to fire off Shadow Ball number 2 on the CMP type, forcing a Protect Shield. This Lantern is still going to be a problem for us. Surf doesn't knock out and the opponent is going to be able to Spark Farm us down. We send back out Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini not going to appreciate a potential Thunderbolt. Phil looks to tank it. Tapu Fini just about hangs on. Phil looks to reach the Moonblast. The opponent attempts to catch it onto a Abomasnow. Abomasnow gets deleted by a single Incinerate. The opponent's final Pokemon is the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death. Darmanitan farms up, fires off the Rock Slide on the CMP tie, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. And Darmanitan now looking primed to sweep. The opponent throws the Flame Charge bait, but no bait will be saving this opponent's fate. Darmanitan grinning away, fires off the Rock Slide. Get that Talonflame off my screen. Back out comes Lantern, and Darmanitan once again gonna sweep the back line. GG's and thanks for playing. I think if the opponent switched out the opening matchup a lot earlier than they did, they could have had a chance. In the next battle we see a very nice lead. Tapu Fini into Gliscor, the opponent save switches into Venusaur, and here comes Skeledirge. Skeledirge completely walls this energy due to Ghost resisting poison and Fire resisting grass. However, with that being said, Shadow Venusaur and Shadow Darmanitan share a similarity. They do not care about typings. 2 resisted Frenzy Plants and the Vine Whips almost knock us out. Although Phil knows his IVs, knows he survives, leaves with the Shadow Ball and minimal farm for the returning Gliscor. We see Phil make a very heads up play, sending out Tapu Fini instantly to get it onto this switch lock Gliscor. The opponent does reach the departing Earthquake, but Phil able to Water Gun farm it all the way down before the opponent's switch timer pops up. The opponent sends out Feraligatr. We fire off the Moonblast, forcing the Protect Shield. It's now all down to Darmanitan. The opponent throws on alignment, and that should seal the deal. With 2 Protect Shields too high behind, Darmanitan should be able to clean up. We fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and Overheat, despite being resisted, is easily going to pick up the dub. GG's and thanks for playing. Even when Overheat is resisted and Rock Slide hits for neutral, not only does Overheat do more damage, it's better DPE due to Overheat just being a really good move and getting same type attack bonus. In the next battle we see Tapu Fini into Obstagoon. The opponent is staying in, so perhaps they've got Gunk Shot. I guess we're never going to know as the opponent looks to call the bait and Phil nukes them through 2 Protect Shields. Out comes Alola Muk and we see the instant pivot into Skeledirge. This isn't a bad matchup for us whatsoever. The opponent tanks the Disarming Voice and then send out Poliwrath. It is so nice to bait this thing out so Darmanitan doesn't have to see it. Poliwrath's been giving us a real headache in today's video. Phil, like an absolute savage, calls the Icy Wind bait, returns fire with the Disarming Voice. Disarming Voice goes unshielded and the opponent has had enough and concede the match. Moral of the story is don't bait. Heading into the next battle, we see Tapu Fini into Clefable. We see the pivot into Skeledirge. The opponent stays in and then make a very nice catch. Catching the Shadow Ball onto Charizard. That perhaps wasn't a very nice catch as that Shadow Ball does so much damage. I guess the opponent's thought process is just throw this thing away because we've got Tapu Fini. The opponent throws the Dragon Claw. We get a very nice Incinerate farm down and the opponent sends out Lantern. Lantern, a huge core breaker. We've got a huge energy lead. The opponent does us a huge favour tanking the first Shadow Ball. Phil, not messing around, fires off the next Shadow Ball, which also goes unshielded. This opponent evidently looking to save 2 shields for next season. The opponent probably hoping, with our fire type out of the way, Clefable, which in my opinion is a very good mon in this Ultra League, might be able to sweep. Although High Trainer, meet Darmanitan. Unless this opponent's got Psychic, we completely wall the energy. We've already seen that even resisted charge moves do a lot of damage. Phil should be able to shield twice, tank one move, and then just Incinerate, farm down everything. Phil opts to throw the Rock Slide. I've got no idea why we're throwing a charge move, to be honest, as the opponent has 2 Protect shields. In a situation like this, it's always good just to commit to fast move beatdown, because even if you throw it good timing, unless it's CMP, the opponent will always sneak at least 1 free turn. In this matchup, of course, it didn't really matter whatever Phil did, but it's always good to practice good game mechanics. In the next battle, we'll see another nemesis of ours, Shadow Feraligatr. We've seen what Phil likes to do, is build up to the Moonblast and throw Surfs, just looking to get off some sort of chip damage onto this Gator. The opponent throws yet another Hydro Cannon, and we're already deep into the red. Feraligatr, without a doubt, one of the best mon in the meta. We force ourselves an early shield advantage and send out Skeledirge. The opponent throws a really poor timing. Phil looking to take advantage, putting up that Protect shield and looking to get this Gator off the screen with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball actually forces the opponent's final Protect shield. Phil happy to go all in on Skeledirge. Feraligatr has very quickly found itself in disarming voice range. Phil throws 1 Incinerate and the disarming voice. Finally, Feraligatr has left the battlefield. The opponent then sends out Gliscor, and this is such a scary Pokemon when all shields are down. An Earthquake from Gliscor would probably kill Darmanitan, its wife, and its children. The opponent overfarms before firing off the Night Slash, which will secure the knockout. Interesting enough, the opponent throws the Aerial Ace, which could mean they've got no Earthquake, or they're just running no Night Slash. We send out Tapu Fini, the opponent pivots into Ampharos. Ampharos fires off the Thunder Punch, securing the knockout. We send out Tapu Fini, get Volt Switch farm down. Unfortunately, that one is going to be a loss. Moving on to the next battle, we see another Giratina in the lead. Hopefully this one doesn't respect the damage of our Moonblast. Giratina being a dragon, but very much operating as a ghost type. Us being a fairy are very much operating as a water type. So not a particularly favourable matchup. Phil full sends the Moonblast, forcing a Protect shield. When I was listing core breakers at the start of the video, I think Giratina again is a huge headache for Phil's line of 3. The opponent fishing for the boost with the ancient powers. This time they throw the double resisted Dragon Claw, which doesn't knock out, so Phil saves Tapu Fini as a potential sack swap and pivots into Skeledirge. Ancient power lands for a decent amount of super effective damage. Phil happy to tank it and return fire with a Shadow Ball. The opponent being so annoying, investing a Protect shield, and this Giratina is getting out of hand. Phil finally going to invest a Protect shield. We're going to be able to get rid of Giratina finally with the Shadow Ball, but Giratina has almost killed 2 of our Pokemon. Darmanitan is going to need to put in so much work. The opponent sends out Tentacruel, and this is going to be a very, very harsh reminder that sometimes you're just going to get RPS and your ass kicked in GBL. I can't see any win con whatsoever. Phil sends out Darmanitan. I think it's certainly time to add Tentacruel to that list of massive core breakers. The opponent like a savage bait us with the Acid Spray and then send out Poliwrath. Absolutely brutal. Phil fires off the Rock Slide and then hits the top left, and I cannot blame him whatsoever. In the next battle, we see Alolan Muck in the lead. We see the pivot into Skeledirge, again drawing out Giratina. Phil farms up to the Shadow Ball, baits with the disarming voice, forcing us early shield advantage. This isn't enough for a Shadow Force, so Phil can tank whatever Giratina throws. They throw the Shadow Ball, Skeledirge able to withstand the damage, but Giratina able to outpace the next charge move. Phil happy to shield up the Dragon Claw, looking to land the Shadow Ball damage. The opponent already down 1 Protect shield. Are they willing to 2 shield? They are not, but Shadow Ball unfortunately isn't enough to knock out this bulky beast Giratina. Although we have got him deep into the red, so we can send out Tapu Fini and get ourselves a very nice water gun farm down and leave with residual energy to threaten the return in Alolan Muck. Phil does leave just shy of a Surf. Back out comes Alolan Muck. Phil actually going to full send the Moonblast, looking to do maximum damage. Moonblast goes unshielded and we see the pivot into Darmanitan. Phil looks to call the acid spray bait. What a call. Oof, despite that huge bait call. Unfortunately, we're still going to get wrecked as Poliwrath is going to be able to counter farm Darmanitan all the way down. Tapu Fini certainly doesn't have enough in their tank. Phil not even going to shield this up. We tank the Icy Wind and we're going to concede the match. And unfortunately, that is going to draw to a close today's showcase. Huge shout out to philthebaws, who has very quickly become my favourite person to shoutcast in the Open Ultra League. He is always putting together some insanely fun and unique teams of 3. I can only apologise for how nasal I sound. I've been ill for like 2 weeks now. I can't seem to shake it off. It's very annoying for myself, as well as probably annoying for you listening to my voice. However, if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. A link to my battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching. And I'll see you all in the next one.